Jon Favreau is the American dream. I suppose we should determine what exactly the American dream means in this context. I take it to mean that a person possessed of a certain desire to do great things can achieve those great things with enough talent, diligence, and, it wouldn't be right to leave this out, luck. I'll let you all determine what you think each of those quantities need to be in order to find success, but this is a rough equation for me. Jon Favreau hits each and every one of these qualifications. He has talent, is plenty diligent, and had his fair share of luck. He's not an overnight success. He's the product of years of going hard after what you want and, eventually, after hundreds of attempts and dozens of incremental successes, achieving, in part, your goals. He almost didn't get into filmmaking, either as an actor or a director. Favreau graduated from Bronx Science, a high school for gifted children, and went to Queens College. He never graduated, dropping out just a few credits shy of a degree. He worked a back office gig at Bear Stearns before he decided to pursue the American dream and strike out on his own. For Favreau, that meant decamping New York for Chicago in 1988 to pursue a career in comedy. He wound up performing at several comedy and improv theaters, but never quite found much success in it. In Chicago, though, he had his first stroke of luck. He got a small gig in Rudy, which is where he met Vince Vaughn. I don't want to make it sound like he found instant success. He didn't. He was in Chicago for 4 years without much to show for it. Some comedy shows here and there, and bit parts on some movies, but nothing indicative of his later success. This is where diligence comes into play. Despite the long slog, Favreau kept going at it. He kept auditioning for roles, took the parts he got, and kept putting in the work. Part of the American dream is trudging along for years before finally getting something.
I was to the town for, that 15 minutes, and I moved out there, and I just didn't work. I had dropped about 75 pounds.
Yeah.
The town didn't know what to do with me. And I spent a lot of time with these out-of-work actor friends that also had gotten their big breaks, but also weren't working.
After Rudy, he had moved to LA to pursue his acting career. There he kept taking the roles that he could get, just trudging through. 1996 is where those three aspects, talent, diligence, and luck, really come together for the first time. Favreau wrote the screenplay for and acted in Swingers alongside his friend Vince Vaughn.
I want you to be like the guy in the Rated R movie. You're a bad man, you're a bad man, you're a bad...
The film, directed by Doug Liman, had a modest $200,000 budget but grossed $4.6 million at the box office, a huge success for such a small budget. This was another stroke of luck. Liman got the money from his father's business associate and agreed to front the cost as long as he could direct. It was the right choice. The film was a critical and commercial success. Steven Spielberg saw it and liked it enough to cast Vince Vaughn in The Lost World, Jurassic Park.
Once in a while. Greenpeace, what drew you there?
Women. 80% female Greenpeace.
Noble.
While Liman has gone on to have a successful directing career in Hollywood. Not bad for a movie shot using friends, acquaintances, resold film rolls, and several other budgetary shortcuts. This is how indie movies are made. You do what you can with what you have, scrimping and saving, sometimes filming without permits, in order to get the job done.
And now Doug is a very famous director, you know what I mean? Which
And
is
what
nice.
did he bring to it?
He decided to just shoot it in a way that you don't normally shoot a film. Shoot it like a student film. Use a small camera. Don't use a big crew. Don't use a lot of lights.
Yeah.
Don't do it in the way that you're, almost like Hollywood Shuffle, where they just did it. They did what they had to do to get the film in the can. Yeah. And $250,000 was enough to get it in the can.
With Swingers, the job was very well done. Again, luck played a factor. Independent film was all the rage in the 90s, and the way was paved by directors like Steven Soderbergh, Richard Linklater, Kevin Smith, and Quentin Tarantino. He stepped into favorable circumstances that he was able to take advantage of because he had continued putting in the work. Favreau had yet to fill the director's chair himself though. Between Swingers and his first directorial feature, he kept acting in movies like Deep Impact and Very Bad Things, eventually landing the lead in a TV film, Rocky Marciano, in 1999. It wasn't until 2001's Made that he took control of every aspect of a movie. Directing, writing, producing, and acting, again alongside his friend Vince Vaughn. The film made $5.5 million on a $5 million budget, but got decent reviews. It proved that he could do it all and wasn't just hot air. Now here, I want to highlight one of my favorite Favreau productions, It's a little-known TV show that ran on IFC in the early 2000s called Dinner for Five. The conceit was simple. During each episode, 5 people from the entertainment industry would come together for dinner and shoot the breeze.
He ain't joking, man.
That's literally
That is literally a quote.
Fuck around. I'm not. I'll come there and I'll have your legs broken. I'm kidding, but I'm not. You know what I mean?
It was created by Favreau and ran from 2001 until 2006, featuring people like J.J. Abrams, Kevin Smith, Stan Lee, Ben Affleck, Martin Scorsese, Vince Vaughn, and dozens more. It wasn't until 2003, 15 years after he left home to seek fortune and fame, that he found it in a big good way with Elf, starring Will Ferrell. Made on a $33 million budget, the film made $225 million in theaters, and considering how well syndicated it is, probably much more in the years since. At this point, it's a Christmas classic. No one is immune from duds, though. The American Dream means sometimes you take risks that don't pan out. 2005's Zathura was such a case. It earned $65.1 million on a $65 million budget, though reviews were still quite good. If nothing else, Favreau continued to prove that as a filmmaker, he had the chops and was worth taking a risk on. Still, Favreau was clear-eyed, calling it a sobering experience. He never quite stopped acting and continued his appearances in small roles. But then came the big one, Iron Man. Favreau signed on to do Iron Man in April of 2006. Iron Man had been in varying stages of development hell for over a decade, with Nicolas Cage, Tom Cruise, Quentin Tarantino, Joss Whedon, and others being considered in one capacity or another. Here, luck helped Favreau yet again. He knew Avi Arad from acting in Daredevil in 2003. Arad, who was CEO of Toy Biz, which took over Marvel, was in charge of producing its films. He called Favreau based off his work on Elf and Zathura and hired him. It was the right choice. The film was an explosive success. Favreau helped launch the most successful media franchise in history, and he took a few risks. First of all, there was no guarantee the movie would succeed. Superhero films weren't the tentpole that they became in the last decade. Add to that, he cast Robert Downey Jr., who, at the time, was better known for his run-ins with the law and substance abuse issues than as an actor. It turned out to be the perfect casting. Iron Man earned critical and commercial acclaim and cemented Favreau as a skilled director. He went on to do Iron Man 2, which was another commercial success and received positive critical reviews. 2009 saw the release of Cowboys and Aliens, which was his first movie that was both critically and commercially disappointing. Up until this point, he was able to do well in either or both, but this is something of a rite of passage for directors. You eventually do a dud. So far, it's his only directorial effort that's a total flop. With 2014's Chef, he returned to his roots. An intimate indie movie made on a modest budget that made a modest return and won critical acclaim. Again, he wrote the script in 2 weeks. A movie about chefs is something that Favreau has wanted to do for a long time, and he made the conscious decision to make it an indie, which he felt suited the subject matter better as opposed to doing a big budget film. It was the right choice. Favreau described it as a back-to-basics movie. He momentarily stepped down from big budget films to do something smaller, something that was his. He took the risk and enjoyed a well-deserved reward. But part of the American Dream is going big, and boy did he go big for his next 2 movies. First came The Jungle Book in 2016, which topped out at $967 million at the box office against a budget of $175 million and won rave reviews. No one, not even Disney, expected this. The film was a true sleeper hit. The film is entirely CG, similar to Avatar and Life of Pi, with principal photography being done on a Los Angeles soundstage. They used animal puppets to help Neil Sethi, who plays Mowgli, act in context. Everything came together to create a movie that was greater than the sum of its parts. No wonder that he's working on its sequel now. His next film was 2019's The Lion King. Reviews weren't great, but the movie made a shocking $1.66 billion on a budget of $250 million, making it one of the 10 highest-grossing films of all time. The movie is virtually entirely CGI, to the point where it qualifies as an animated movie using photorealistic animations. Though he hasn't directed a feature since, that doesn't mean he's been taking time off. Favreau has never committed to doing just one thing. The man has entirely avoided being typecast. All the while he was directing, he continued doing small acting parts. He added writing and directing The Mandalorian to his extensive list of credits in 2019, and wrote episodes for the Book of Boba Fett after starting in 2021. He's done 2 seasons of a Netflix cooking show, The Chef Show, as well. The man is unable to stop doing things. Over his long career, Jon Favreau has had plenty of luck. A lot of it he's created on his own, thanks to his diligence and personal talent. He's worked long and hard, putting in the hours and paying his dues. After all, luck can only take you so far if you don't have the necessary skills to back it up or the ability to keep hammering away at your craft. Favreau does and has proved it consistently. The man is, deservedly, the embodiment of the American dream.
Weird thing in Hollywood. Either nobody wants you or everybody wants you.
Yeah.
And once one person wanted us, everybody wanted us.